A verdict comes down for the suspended Miami commissioner accused of participating in a vote fraud cover-up. Tell all, tell little, tell nothing. Some new options surface just days before President Clinton testifies before a grand jury. Storm clouds stretch across the sky, lightning strikes down below, and one South Florida home takes a major hit. And a huge explosion turns a town into a fireball.
Channel 10, WPLG, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, live, local, late breaking. The Eyewitness News Nightbeat starts right now.
As to count one of the information, fabricating physical evidence, not guilty.
A verdict is in tonight, and it's a split decision in the state vote fraud trial of suspended Miami City Commissioner Humberto Hernandez. Jurors deliberated well into the evening tonight and finally filed back into the courtroom late this evening with their verdict.
Connie Hicks is live at the Metro Justice Building with more on the split decision. Connie.
Well, Dwight, jurors kept asking for coffee this afternoon and tonight. That caffeine has clearly fueled a decision that was not easy for them to reach, and it's really not surprising. There was no overwhelming evidence in this case. There was no smoking gun. And while Humberto Hernandez should be very pleased that he was not found guilty on the more serious felony charges, the jurors clearly decided he did something wrong.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count one of the information, fabricating physical evidence, not guilty. As to count two of the information, conspiracy to fabricating physical evidence, not guilty. As to count three of the information, accessory after fact, guilty.
It was no clear-cut victory for either side.
No question? No.
And jurors refused to say why they voted the way they did after 7.5 hours of deliberations. But you had only to watch Bert Hernandez's face to know the greater loss was his, or his wife's face.
We were somewhat disappointed with the one count that he got found guilty. On the other hand, he got found not guilty of the more serious count, which is a felony count, and not guilty of a conspiracy count. So to that extent, we're satisfied.
All right. Court is adjourned. Thank you all.
This was not considered an especially strong case against Hernandez, so the state will take its guilty count where it can get it.
The message here is very strong that it's a serious business to be involved in voter fraud, and it won't be tolerated.
Now, Hernandez clearly needed a clean win tonight, and he did not get it. It also means that even though he's found guilty of one misdemeanor, it is probably enough to keep him in the federal detention center until his September 8th federal trial on money laundering and bank fraud charges. Although it may be a moot point at this point, he is also to stand sentencing in the voter fraud case next Wednesday morning. Reporting live from Miami, Connie Hicks, Channel 10, Eyewitness News.
Connie, what kinds of punishment might he face for the misdemeanor? What's the maximum that he can get?
In reality, probably not much of anything at all. It's only a misdemeanor charge. It certainly could, at worst, mean jail time. At this point, since he has got a clean record, it could normally be probation. The more serious case facing him at this point is the federal trial September 8th on money laundering charges, and I suspect any decision in this case is probably going to wait until they see whether or not he's found guilty or innocent in that case.
All right, Connie Hicks live at the courthouse tonight. Thank you, Connie.
And as Connie said, sentencing is set for next Wednesday. We're going to continue to follow this story. We're trying to get some reaction from Hernandez's former colleagues on the city commission, so keep it right here on 10.
And our other top story tonight, it's been another night of wild weather here in South Florida with rain pounding, lightning striking, and one house taking a major hit. Nightbeat reporter Elliot Rodriguez is live on Miami Beach tonight with more on the damage that was left behind. Elliot?
Diane, we're actually on Lincoln Road on Miami Beach, where about an hour ago there was practically nobody out here. It was pouring rain. It was dead out here. But now traffic has picked up after a downpour that really shook things up in South Florida. The storm came from the west and hit hard right around rush hour. This stretch of South Dixie Highway near Coral Gables was cut down to 2 lanes. And as drivers made their way home, they got quite a show in the sky.
Terrible. A lot of thunder. I hate that. It's been pretty spectacular here tonight, yeah.
On Miami Beach, where Friday night means big crowds on Lincoln Road, a steady drizzle kept people away, but not this couple from Chicago.
You got thunderstorms like this in Chicago?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This much lightning?
Maybe not quite as big of a show.
The rain was really bad news for places like Norma's on the beach, where getting an outdoor table was no problem at all.
We're usually pretty busy on Friday nights, and we had a lot of cancellations tonight, unfortunately.
Keeping people away?
Sure. sure, absolutely. The weather feels great, though. It's cooled down, but it doesn't help business at all.
The weather caused far more serious problems for the owner of this duplex near Hollywood. Lightning tore a huge hole in the roof, causing lots of damage, but luckily no one was home when it happened. Okay, we have some totals tonight from Florida Power and Light. 37,000 homes were left without power as a result of that thunderstorm, and they don't expect to have everyone back online for another 4 to 6 hours. So not only a wet night, but also a dark night for a lot of people in South Florida. Reporting from Miami Beach, I'm Elliot Rodriguez, Channel 10 Eyewitness News on the Night Beat.
And from Elliot in Miami Beach to meteorologist Don Noe with more on where these storms are heading now. Don.
Okay, Dwight, here's a quick chronology of what happened tonight. Starting at about 4:30 this afternoon, here's Dade County. A severe thunderstorm warning was issued for that storm right there. That dissipated as it moved to the south. But now watch up here into Broward. That's the line that really was the hammering one as it moved into North Dade County, Central Dade County, South Dade County, and then finally dissipated and broke apart about 8 o'clock tonight. All that was left was mainly just light rain across much of Dade. Broward not getting much. And coming up in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you where those storms went. It's mainly up near the lake. And also, we're going to take a look at some of the rain amounts that fell in Dade County today, and also all kinds of other activity in terms of record highs, record lows, and a hurricane in the Pacific. Stay tuned.
We have a late-breaking story just into the Eyewitness newsroom. A woman on a flight to Cuba tonight had a heart attack and died on the plane. She was on a Mexicana flight from Miami. Now, the woman has not yet been identified, but she was traveling with 2 children. The return flight from Havana has been delayed because her body is still on the plane right now.
What police are calling a house of pot was uncovered today in West Miami-Dade, and we do mean uncovered. Police found 64 plants worth $200,000 inside a drug lab underneath this home. Investigators say the lab was set up with lights, fans, timers, even an irrigation system.
This guy went to extra special trouble to build his lab. He literally dug a hole in his closet, his bedroom closet, and a tunnel beneath that all the way down to the, I say basement level, but there wasn't a basement there. He created a basement.
Police say the suspect claims he was growing the marijuana simply as a hobby, but investigators think he was planning to sell it. Sky 10 was first over the scene of a truck fire earlier tonight. That fire caused quite a jam in the northbound lanes along I-95 in Fort Lauderdale. Firefighters blocked off a few of those lanes while they got the flames under control. Nobody was hurt. No word yet on what sparked this blaze.
A reunion today for a New Jersey family who had been lost on the streets of South Florida for more than 3 days. John Thomason stayed behind when his wife, his son, and his granddaughter left on Monday for a bus tour. But on their way to the bus, they got lost, forgot where they were staying, and drove around for 3 days for 81 hours. Thompson was beside himself with fear.
I couldn't wait to see him. There's not much I could do. Worry.
I felt sorry for your brother.
It's nothing but worry.
His wife, Rose, who was diabetic, went without her medication for those 3 days and had to be hospitalized when she was found. But once she is well enough to travel, the Thomasons plan to drive back home.
Miami City Commissioners voted on increasing some city fees today. Fees for garbage pickup will go up to $214 in 1999 and will continue to increase at about $50 over the next 5 years. Fire fees are also going up. They'll be $61 next year, and by the year 2003, they'll reach almost $100. Well, less than 1 hour and counting to tax-free week here in Florida. That's when shoppers can hit the stores without paying sales tax. But there are some rules, so here are some guidelines.
It's almost tax-free week, but many people don't even know what that is. It affects adult and children's clothing and shoes under $50 at all Florida stores, but there are some limitations.
It's too small, huh?
Don't count on avoiding tax on everything you buy. You'll still have to pay the tax on some items, like ties, purses, and umbrellas. Stores should know what's included. Many will have that information already programmed on the cash register scanners.
And finally, don't use tax-free week as an excuse to overspend. After all, you're only saving 6%.
Well, in just 3 days, President Clinton will testify before a grand jury about his relationship with Monica Lewinsky.
And now there's word he might actually change his story, but at the same time, remain technically truthful.
A huge fireball rocks a South Florida town and forces dozens of people from their homes.
Another big win for big tobacco, but could it be harmful to our children's health?
And the American adventurer trying to balloon around the world breaks another record.
You're watching Eyewitness News with Diane Magnum and Dwight Lauderdale.
Orange flames shot 500 feet into the air tonight after an explosion at a natural gas plant. This happened in Perry, Florida. That's just south of Tallahassee. People grabbed their video cameras and pointed them at the explosion. Apparently, lightning sparked the fire, which could be seen 4 miles away. 2 homes in the area burned to the ground, and 4 firefighters were injured, but that blaze is now under control.
An appeal is already in the works after a federal appeals court ruled today that tobacco cannot be federally regulated. Right now, the FDA mandates that all stores demand photo IDs from people buying tobacco products, and it also limits outdoor advertising and vending machine sales of cigarettes. But all that could change with the appeals court ruling today that said those regulations simply go too far.
Reaction is now coming in on the split decision in the vote fraud trial of suspended Miami Commissioner Humberto Hernandez. Let's go live to Kelly Mitchell in Little Havana. Kelly?
Dwight, as soon as we finished getting reaction from the courthouse, we headed straight to Little Havana, straight to Versailles Restaurant to talk to the people. And because the verdict was so late in coming down, a lot of people had not yet heard what had happened in this particular case, so we had to tell them. Once we told them, of course, this has been such a hot issue, they had a whole lot to say about it, and here it is.
I don't like the guy, but that doesn't mean that that I want him to be guilty.
If he's not.
If he's not.
I really feel very, very disappointed the way that things are going here. They are like little kids playing around.
I really don't know if people are dead together. No, there's a much, I haven't followed the trial, so I don't know what's going on.
So there you have the initial reaction. We noticed once we told some of these people what was going on, they ran and told others what had happened. So we are sure the reaction will be spreading from one end of Little Havana to another. Live in Little Havana, I'm Kelly Mitchell, Channel 10 Eyewitness News on the Nightbeat.
Well, tonight the focus in Washington is on President Clinton's testimony on Monday before the Starr grand jury.
The New York Times reports the president is considering changing his story and may admit to some sexual contact with Monica Lewinsky, but will still maintain he's told the truth all along. Sound confusing? It is. Last January, President Clinton took this position.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
And that's what the president swore to under penalty of perjury in his deposition in the Paula Jones case 9 days before. In that deposition, Jones' lawyers gave the president a written description of sex, which defines several physical points of contact with an intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. But it does not explicitly cover all points of contact involving oral sex. Some legal experts say the definition might be read to imply sex took place only if the president initiated the contact, rather than the other way around. Monday, when the president starts talking, a big concern will be making sure what he says doesn't end up on the evening news or in a political attack ad. White House security specialists will use a secure fiber optic line linking the White House with the U.S. courthouse a mile away. Eavesdroppers would have to find the right cable among the thousands under Washington streets, an unlikely scenario. Security experts agree the weakest link will be at the courthouse as grand jurors watch the president's testimony on their TVs, because all TVs emit radiation.
Anybody within a quarter-mile away can possibly pick up the signal if they have the right receivers and the right technology.
Now, the security experts say if what the president tells the grand jury leaks out, it probably won't happen because of technical sabotage, but would most likely come from one of the lawyers, staff, or camera operators in the room. The president is scheduled to start talking at 1 p.m. on Monday. But first, tonight, a special edition of Nightline. If the president admits to having some sort of sex with Monica Lewinsky, is that an impeachable offense? Watch Nightline right after the Night Beat.
Secretary of State Madeleine Albright will visit Kenya and Tanzania over the weekend and tour the sites of those 2 horrendous embassy bombings. In the meantime, 1 week after the bombings, U.S. investigators are now raking over the debris looking for clues. But they say their investigation could last for another month. Today, mourners laid roses outside the bombed-out embassy in Kenya, remembering the 247 people who were killed.
Earlier, we showed you what happened with regard to lightning up in Perry, Florida. Now we're going to show you some lightning video here.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Nothing like what happened in Perry.
Oh,
right?
no, it was real. This is from our First Union Tower cam. It's edited video, but it shows some clear lightning strikes cloud to ground, and there were literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lightning strikes all throughout South Florida tonight during that thunderstorm, and it really just caused a big problem, and I'm sure scared a lot of people, and I hope that you're okay, and it's all gone now. Let's take a look at what happened again. If we look at this from 4 o'clock until the current time, here's that big area of rain that came down, lightning all over the place. If we look again to the north, we can see what happened following our storms. As soon as they died out, another line formed near Lake Okeechobee, and that line has been really going since. Now it seems to be dying out a little bit, but you can see it kind of moving that way, but it's pretty calm now down to the south, and I expect it to stay that way. Here's some of the rain amounts. Fort Lauderdale only a third, but Opelika, North Dade 2.18, Miami Airport 1.98, Tamiami 3.5 inches, some areas 4.5 inches of rain. Homestead report was missing, and down in the Keys, Point Away, Coral Gables, by the way, had about 1.7 inches of rain for today. Now, I want to show you what's happening with the radar right now. This is the past 3-hour time period. We'll watch and we'll see here our storms dissipate. They're the ones near the lake. All of this is mainly light rain. Some of this is false return, but you can see a definite decrease in the area of coverage, so it looks like it's getting better. Except for the Keys right now, it looks like maybe about the Big Pine or the 7 Mile Bridge over to the north of Key West. They're getting some rain and still continued to the north. 94 in Miami was a record high. Then it started to rain. We hit 71. That was a record low. So record high, record low on the same day, and there's the 2 inches of rain. Right now, all temperatures in the 70s, except for the Keys, where it's still in the 80s right now. Looking at the statewide temperature readings, we can see readings in the 70s throughout much of the state here, 85 yet in Tampa and Fort Myers. By the way, the high tomorrow may be 95 degrees. It was 98 in North Dade County today. During the past 6-hour period, the state has just been covered with clouds. First it was North Florida, then South Florida. You can't even see the names anymore. There's a tropical wave that's moving over us, and I'm sure that's enhancing the activity for rain by getting it just a little cooler aloft, and that's enough to push thunderstorms convection to the north. We can see this line of storms in the south. Again, heavy rain there also from about Wyoming up through Wisconsin tonight. The rest of the country relatively clear. Looking at temperature readings, we've got 80s out there. The tropics looks good right now. I want to show you one more thing. This is Georgette, and Georgette is a pretty good storm. Georgette has strong winds to it. We want to get to the forecast just a second here. I can't speed this up any faster than it goes. But right here, we can see a major eye right there, 100-mile-an-hour winds for Georgette. In brief, here's our forecast. It looks like it's going to be a real nice evening with conditions very, very pleasant now until morning. Tomorrow, we're going to see showers and thunderstorms all day long in the afternoon. And then for the Sunday period, looks like temperatures are going to be definitely a little bit cooler than they will be tomorrow. So light rain just about over, morning sunshine, afternoon thunderstorms again tomorrow might be severe. That's our forecast. Dwight.
Thank you, Don. Is actress Sophia Loren sick?
Still ahead, we'll tell you what a New York hospital and a heart doctor are saying about her health.
And some career firefighters in South Florida become part-time pinups.
Eyewitness Weather, brought to you by your local Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Actress Sophia Loren is in the hospital tonight after reportedly suffering a heart attack. The New York Daily News says Loren suffered shortness of breath while out with a friend. Now, a heart doctor has confirmed the actress is a patient at a New York hospital, but so far the hospital is not confirming that.
Their death-defying jobs keep them in shape, and now they're flexing their muscles for another worthy cause. We're talking about firefighter calendar girls. Todd Duggan has details from the scene, the fire station.
South Florida firefighters are on the job 24/7, 365 days. They know what a calendar year is, so why not their own calendar?
It's excellent public relations.
I mean, they get to see you guys every month?
Pretty much, and they get to see a little bit more of us than they would ordinarily.
Janie Carreras is a 12-year veteran at Station 49 in Fort Lauderdale. She is also Miss April. At first, she said she wasn't sure she wanted to be a calendar girl.
Nah, I'm a little shy. You know, you have to be in the public and the limelight a lot, so I was not really that comfortable with that. But I'm glad that I did it.
Glad because the proceeds go to University of Miami's Jackson Memorial Burn Center. And while the calendar heats things up, Janie keeps her cool.
I'm a driver engineer.
And what's that mean?
That means that I operate the vehicle and I get everyone there safely, and then when we're at a fire, operate the water supply to the lines.
Janie doesn't plan on becoming a permanent pinup. She's a career firefighter. So far, the other firefighters at her station haven't doused the flames of fame.
You'll see on that calendar how good a shape she's in.
Yeah?
She's pretty hot, I'll tell you.
Todd Tongan, Channel 10 Eyewitness News on the Nightbeat.
And
Good
all
cause.
for a worthy cause. Well, forget Elvis sightings. Sonny and Cher are now popping up all over the place.
Just check out Times Square. Still ahead, we'll tell you what this flashback to the 70s is all about. But first, here's Jimmy with sports.
And in sports, it's the first day of two-a-days for the Canes, and already they're impressing Butch Davis. And Jimmy Johnson sends another message to Tim Bowens and company. The details when Eyewitness News turns to sports.
Millionaire adventurer Steve Fawcett hasn't ballooned around the globe yet, but he has broken a personal record. He's been in the air for nearly 7 days, and that beats his old record of 6 days and 2 hours. Fawcett is expected to reach Australia in the next day or two. This is his 4th attempt to become the first person to fly nonstop around the world.
Look at those beautiful, clear blue skies. We didn't have any of that today, especially to celebrate Dolphin Fever.
And that's what they're celebrating. The Dolphins won again last night. 2 down, 2 to go for the Dolphins during this preseason. And for the first time since 1994, the Dolphins won their first 2 preseason games. The main reason, third-string quarterback Damon Heward, he hooked up with Rondé Gadsden for not only this 30-yard touchdown, but also the 2-point conversion to give the Dolphins a 14-13 win. But last night's game was not on Jimmy Johnson's mind, not this afternoon. Tim Bowens was. The defensive lineman who has been holding out since the beginning of training camp wants to be one of the top-paid linemen in the league, and that means paying him $5 million a year. The Dolphins' last offer was a 2-year deal worth $6.5 million, and that's been on the table since July 22nd. So with no progress made in several weeks, JJ looked into other possibilities to resolve the holdout.
We want him to be on our team. We want him to be the second highest paid player on our team. For that reason, if there is to be a trade, we said it's going to take a number 1 and a good player. And that's what we told Drew. That's what we told everybody in the league. And as of the last week and a half, there's no interest from anybody in the league.
In college football, Eddie Robinson was inducted into that Sports Hall of Fame tonight in South Bend, Indiana. The legendary coach won 408 games during his 55-year career at gambling. Here in Coral Gables, the University of Miami got down to some serious business today. The Canes held their first 2-a-days for the full squad. The season is just 3 weeks away, and fifth-year senior quarterback Scott Covington looks like he'll be the man who'll get the chance to run the Canes offense.
It was great to start. We've been waiting 6 months to come out here to have just this first day. I thought the players, I thought the enthusiasm was very good, the effort, the hustle. I thought our coaches did an outstanding job of setting the tempo for the practice, of getting guys to understand they've got to execute.
Now to baseball, the Marlins have moved to Northern California to begin a 3-game series with the Giants. Right now at 3Com Park, the Giants have a 4-0 lead in the second. Former Marlin Mark Gardner is on the mound for San Francisco, and he helped himself with a single that drove in a pair of runs. Elsewhere in the National League tonight, the Astros hosting Sammy Sosa and the Cubs in Houston. He didn't homer tonight, but he did contribute an RBI double. Mickey Morandini came around to score, and the Cubs led 2-1. Later in that inning, pitcher Mark Clark helped his own cause with this single that drove in a pair. The Cubs score 4 in the 6th inning and go on to beat the Astros by a final of 6-4. Elsewhere in the National League, St. Louis topped Pittsburgh, but no, Mark McGwire did not hit a home run tonight. It was Cincinnati over Montreal, and in the 8th, Philadelphia is leading Colorado by a score of 6-2. In the American League tonight, Baltimore's Chris Hoiles became just the 9th player in Major League history to hit 2 grand slams in 1 game. He cranked one out in the 3rd off Charles Nagy. That gave the O's a 7-1 lead over the Indians. And then in the 8th inning, with the bases loaded, Hoiles, well, he does it again. This time, he took Ron Vallone deep on tonight. Hoiles was 3 for 5 with 8 RBI. The Orioles crushed the Indians by a score of 15-3. Elsewhere in the American League, the Yanks have now won 9 in a row. They beat Texas by a score of 6-4. Elsewhere, it was Anaheim over Toronto. Boston, look at that score, beat Minnesota 13-12. It was Detroit over Oakland. Chicago beat the Seattle 14-2, and it was Kansas City over Tampa Bay. And finally, the PGA Championship is up for grabs in Redmond, Washington. 10 golfers are within 2 strokes of the lead after today's second round. The sentimental favorite has been Stuart Appleby, who is making his first appearance since the death of his wife. He struggled but managed to roll in this birdie putt on 17. Appleby 10 over par today. For the last 2 days, rather. Atop the leaderboard stands Vijay Singh. His tee shot on number 3 checks up just 3 feet from the cup. Singh birdied the hole, went on to shoot a 4 under par at 66. Lurking And one stroke back is Mark O'Meara, who's looking for his third major of the year. His pitch checks up, and then it rolls in for birdie on number 6. He's at 3 under par. Glenn Day made a charge early. Here he makes a perfect read of a very difficult putt. Watch this. He needs a road map for this one. Now tell me that there's got to be some luck in that, doesn't it? It falls, but Day faltered later with 4 straight bogeys. Tiger Woods also had his share of problems. He has this putt for par, but it just lips out. Tiger shot a 2 over 72 today for a 2-day total of 2 under par. He is 2 strokes back of Vijay Singh. And that is sports, Diane.
All right, Jimmy. Hey, stick around. Our nightcap is next.
But first, here are tonight's winning lottery numbers.
Finally tonight, Sonny and Cher sightings top our nightcap.
They say we're young and we don't know. We won't find out until we grow up.
Well, I don't know if all that's true, but you got me, and baby, I got you.
Yeah, keep the day job. Today in Times Square, dozens of people walked around acting and dressing like the famous duo. The lookalikes are trying out for the new film called What Else? The Beat Goes On.
I don't think singing is required. Huh? That does it for now. You have a good weekend.
Nightline is next. Enjoy the evening. Bye-bye.
Eyewitness News, South Florida's #1 choice for news and information on the one and only Channel 10.